I also made a commitment to abstain from intimate relationships so that I could focus on developing more as an individual and to increase my value and substance to the world. Because the thing I see, there's nothing wrong with relationships. The thing I see about it that I think is wrong from my perspective is that too many people prioritize trying to become an identity in order to integrate with someone else, in order to have a relationship, in order to keep up some sort of external appearance. And when you do that, quite often what ends up happening is that you end up losing yourself in the process of doing it. And so you just become someone else in order to maintain a certain kind of life. Hey everyone, I hope you've all been well. I know it's been over a month since I posted anything on the channel. November was a really interesting month. We started off the month on a very sad note. We lost my grandmother back on November 5th, so yeah, that was a difficult time for the whole family, and I really couldn't do much work in the first 2 weeks of the month. And then after that, we had a really big launch at the end of November that the team and I were preparing for with one of our big projects currently. So we were extremely busy throughout that month in November. And then to make things worse, I ended up falling sick. So I am still very much sick, but I'm on the road to recovery. So yeah, it's been a tough month, but that's part of life, and we just learn to manage things as we go along. So I do apologize for the lack of content on the channel over the last month and a half or so. But I wanted to do a video today just talking about something that I posted on our private but free community on school.com, and that is talking about how success is a system and pretty much a formula. So I wanted to make this quick video just talking to you all about what that formula is like and really what success is, which I think a lot of people try to overcomplicate it and try to add just way too much stuff into it, thinking that, it's something big that's only available to a handful of people. So really success and also failure, which is the opposite of that, is pretty much a repeatable formula and a reliable system that anyone can count on that will always produce the exact same results, which is pretty much what you put in is what you get out. And it follows the same principle as the term in computer science, garbage in, garbage out. And it's been my experience that people tend to overcomplicate how simple it is to succeed and think that there's some magic behind it when the truth couldn't be anything further from that. Life and in nature and almost every other system that exists in the world always produces results based on the inputs that it's provided. And the same cannot be true for things like our body. If you put junk into your body, you're going to become overweight and eventually obese. If you put junk in your head as well, right, with the kind of information you're absorbing every day, you're going to end up a stupid person and a fool all your life. But if you flip the switch, right, and you start eating healthy and you start filling your mind with the right things, then the results will be exponentially different and far better for you. To speak about it on a personal level, my life was drastically different at 14 when I changed the inputs that I was putting into my life. But before that, I had a life that anyone on the outside looking in would say was destined for failure. But how did I end up with such a life? Like in the first place, like when I think back, what led to it? Was I born into this world with that life earmarked for me as my destiny, or did I and the environment around me have a role to play in its outcome? And that's a very important question to ask to quickly get to the realization of, what's really affecting us, right? And the answer is really simple. I and my environment was inputting the wrong things that produce such a horrible byproduct, which is, my miserable life at the time. So to change things, I had to seriously relook at the inputs in my life and the results they were producing, and really sincerely ask myself, is this where I want to be in a few short years? And if the answer was no, I simply had to cut out every possible thing in my life that served as inputs to the displeasurable output I was experiencing. So to put this into perspective, how did this actually look like for me? Well, this meant several things. I had to go from maintaining mundane and toxic relationships with my social circle to now completely isolating myself so that I could focus more on developing internally, which meant that I had no friends basically, because everyone around me was pretty much up to no good. So that meant that I had to isolate myself to focus on what was more important. And I was comfortable with being alone in order to do that. And those are difficult, quote unquote, difficult decisions you have to make in order to turn your life around. The other thing I did was I had to quit social media, and I turned my whole attention to what was important to me at that time, which was my education and building up my programming and software development skills. I made a commitment to never touch alcohol, smoking, and betel nut again. I also made a commitment to abstain from intimate relationships so that I could focus on developing more as an individual and to increase my value and substance to the world. Because the thing I see, there's nothing wrong with relationships. The thing I see about it that I think is wrong from my perspective is that too many people prioritize trying to become an identity in order to integrate with someone else, in order to have a relationship, in order to keep up some sort of external appearance. And when you do that, quite often what ends up happening is that you end up losing yourself in the process of doing it. And so you just become someone else in order to maintain a certain kind of life. But when you have the time to focus on yourself, on developing yourself, then you have the opportunity to develop into a more valuable individual, and an individual who can contribute meaningful things to society, whether that's through your job, through whatever endeavor that you're undertaking. And it gives you the opportunity to become a person of your own. And in that moment, you're able to build enough substance to carry yourself, to then be able to say, okay, I'm now ready for the next stage, right? Which is that I want to get into a relationship. But I don't think it's wise to jump into a relationship when you're not yet grounded personally, right? And you haven't really discovered who you are. And I see that the interesting thing is everyone's so concerned about trying to learn about the other person, right? When they get into a relationship, and we glorify the other person and we're so in love with them. But we don't give that same kind of love and attention to ourselves. And that's where the big mistake is. And that's also the biggest reason why many relationships don't last, is because one person is sort of up there, right? And the other person is just leeching on them. When in reality, what should happen is that both parties should be on the same level, right? And sort of responsible and matured and grounded and doing their own thing and a success in their own way. So I recognized that early on that I had to put a stop to that and just focus on what was important to me. Another commitment I made was that I stopped watching television. So I basically replaced it with regular reading, watching important documentaries and educational content, and listening to impressive speakers and authors speak about different subjects so that I could expand my mind on different things. And I think that's what many young people should be doing as well. And I will say by cutting out all those things in my life, I learned a very important lesson early on, and that is that nothing beats elimination. I mean, you can try to do everything under the sun, but eliminate things, but it will never be as good as just removing things in your life that really don't need to be there in the first place. And the best part about it is that it's often the solution to everyone's problem of having way too much going on at the same time and really going nowhere. Because the freedom you get ultimately from having fewer things to worry about is unmatched by anything else. And not attempting to eliminate unnecessary wastages in your life, but creating workarounds instead. I've seen that it only produces a sort of bandage effect on things, which basically means that it doesn't really solve the problem, but ends up making it much worse. So overall, what I'm trying to say is that your life works pretty much the same way. In order to get the results you want, is to the desired result, you must provide the right inputs that yield the desired end result. The key to success really cannot be more simpler than that. So I want to give you a set of key action items to do to help you figure out what are the right inputs to put into your life in order to get the right output. The first action item is to do an audit of your life. And so what you're going to do is just take out a pen and paper and list down all the inputs in your life. These are the things and activities that you're engaged in on a daily or regular basis. Now, this can include your environment and relationships and their influence on you, which I will say have the biggest impact on you and the kind of person you turn out to be. So you can also list the kind of environment you're in and the relationships that you have that are shaping you. The second action item is to look at each input that you've listed and ask yourself, what output is this producing for me currently in my life? And then the subsequent question to ask is the output what I want from my life that I'm getting from these inputs? Now, I have to put a caveat here. This task will be impossible to do if you haven't yet figured out what you want in life, which is the output. So you'll need to get very clear on that first before attempting this task. You have to know, where are you going? What do you want? What's the output in life that you want to produce, right? Once you're very clear on that, then you can reverse engineer things and figure out what the inputs are that are going to produce that output. The third action item is to make a conscious and deliberate decision to cut out all the wrong inputs that are producing the opposite or subpar outputs to what you desire. Now, this is very important because a lot of people talk a good game, but when it comes to actually removing things in their life, eliminating things that are not going to serve them, many people are not willing to do that. So you have to be very serious and committed to what it is you want to achieve. Only then will you be willing to make decisions that not everyone is willing to do and to cut out all the unnecessary crap in your life. And the final action item is that every day have a routine and a schedule that incorporates only the necessary inputs that will yield the outputs you want to experience. If you do this, the results in your life will take care of themselves and success will be inevitable for you. And everyone around you is going to look at you and wonder, how is it so easy for this person to achieve so much success? Because it's simple. You just follow a simple formula. You just follow a simple system of inputting the right things in order to get the right outputs. And that's pretty much success. And if you do that every day with discipline, with consistency, with persistence, without deviating, I tell you, there is a lot that you can achieve in a matter of weeks and months compared to years. So do those action items and figure out what it is you want to achieve. And then only focus your efforts on the right inputs. That is it. And the last thing I would say about this is that forget everything else. You can't achieve great things by trying to also pursue everything else. Successful people are highly single-minded. They're very laser focused, laser sharp on what they want to do. That enables them to put all their energy and attention and focus into one thing to accelerate its progress. So you have to be willing to be single-minded with what it is you want in life. That is the only way to get ahead quickly. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Let me know in the comments below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And let me know what your feedback is, really. I really want to hear from you all. And I want to know, what other content I should be producing on the channel that will interest you. So do leave your thoughts below. I read every one of your comments and I respond to them directly. And I also use it to make new content for the channel. So I'd love to hear from all of you. I'll speak to you all next time. Bye.